Thanks again to Semester Detroit for inviting us. And yeah, so far we've heard some different sessions on the theme of rethinking education justice. Our session last week the title was Overburdened Schools and Under-Resourced Communities. And we talked a lot about the different challenges that we see in Detroit public schools and charter schools and how we overcome those challenges. One of those ways is through the work that we do at Racquet Up and other after-school programming across the city. One piece of that puzzle, and today we're going to hear from the youth, the kids that we work with, our graduates, the ones that are impacted most by the challenges in the city, and from participating in programs and just to see, does it work? What are the challenges that still remain? What's the work that still remains? And then the two sessions coming after this will be kind of focused on activism and what changes we can make through the 482 Forward organization that is facilitating those sessions. So for today, one thing I want to mention is that we're going to have a break for anyone fasting. So if anyone's observing Ramadan, 7:43 is the time when you can break your fast. There's a prayer room in the office there, and Craig can show anyone who wants to go there. I have some dates for anyone who wants to break their fast. And then of course there's food, should be still food out there that you can eat. And then just to tell you a little bit about the space. So we're in Racquet Up's space. So this is welcome to Racquet Up Detroit. We're a nonprofit after-school program that serves students 5th through 12th grade. And we support students 7 years beyond their high school graduation. So we will, really we're an 8-year intensive holistic program that serves students through our 3 main buckets, which is wellness, our community service work and character development, academics, and then our fitness and squash. And we aim to support students in the many ways and kind of meet them where they're at. So that may mean getting them exposures to different college and career pathways, right? Depending on their interests. To give you some examples, this Saturday we attended a poetry conference and had a nutrition cooking session that was here on Saturday, and also a squash practice. So that's just kind of like a glimpse of what one day in the life of Racquet Up looks like. Next week, spring break, we're taking kids on a college trip, kind of in the Midwest, but a little bit across the country for the whole 7 days, and they'll kind of see different schools they're interested in and get a nice view of that. So that's a little bit about Racquet Up and what we do here. I'm going to pass it to Hollyn to introduce herself and get it going.
Hi everyone. So thank you for teeing up the session and connecting us back to last week's as well. I'm really grateful that we get to be here in this space in our own little corner of out-of-school time education justice here at Racquet Up. So I'm Hollyn Formosa. I'm the 5th and 6th grade academic coordinator. I've been here for almost 3 years, and I'm also a Semester in Detroit alumni. Racquet Up is also, we should mention, a member of the Squash and Education Alliance. So that is a network of programs, 21 member programs across the country, with 6 international sites as well, that offer this year-round squash, but also educational opportunities to students, starting in middle school and then through high school and their post-secondary journeys as well. So as an academic coordinator, myself and my fellow frontline staff colleagues are really at the core of programming, hence the front lines, and are working with students every day. So just wanted to give a little context to what that looks like as well at Racquet Up. So we have 3 teams, 5th and 6th grade team, my kiddos 7th and 8th grade and high school, and we start recruiting 5th graders the fall of their 5th grade year, and also rising 5th graders as well. So like this year, 4th graders who are finishing 4th grade can join us for summer camp. So if you know of any 4th graders in the area, send them my way, and they can spend the summer with us. And Of course, this is with the goal of students starting in, that late elementary, early middle school. As Fareed mentioned, to spend the duration of their middle school, high school years with us, and then for an additional 7 years of programming as they enter their post-secondary pathway, whatever that may look like. It doesn't matter if they're entering higher ed right away or they're going directly into the workforce. It's really our goal to support them in any way that we can. Sorry, looking at my notes. So for middle school and high school students, they program 3 times a week. And as Fareed mentioned, we have really robust programming on weekends, a lot of different events and activities. And then when they're in the classroom with us for half of their time during their 3 days of practice, they're with their respective academic coordinators, either working on homework, tutoring, engaging with our enrichment curriculum, as well as wellness, financial literacy, and nutrition. And then the other half of their time, they're learning the sport of squash, of course. But not just that, they're focusing on warm-ups, general fitness and wellness, to really connect the loop on wellness and what it means to have all these different aspects of our lives connect up and link up together, right? Because that impacts how we feel and how we show up as people in the world. The structure for tonight's session is 3 parts. So the first part will be a breakout group, and then we will have our panelist Q&A with some of our beloved members of the Racquet Up community. And then we will close it out with a full audience question and answer dialogue at the end. So the logistics of this first portion for the breakout groups, everyone should have a name tag, hopefully, with your name on it, and there should also be a space labeled on that as well. So that space, of course, indicates where you're going to be going for the breakout session.
Yeah, if you don't have a name tag, there's some outside.
Yeah. Actually, Rose has additional name tags. If you don't have a name tag, feel free to grab one. And then everyone will be discussing, conversing around the same prompts. And really our goal with this session, when Fareed and I were planning it, we wanted it to be anecdotal. We wanted it to be based in storytelling and just provide a space for us to personally reflect. I think with this question of, education justice, but also times of our youth as well. Whether you're a current middle school student or you're 30 years removed. So that's really why we're doing this, to change up the structure, have a little personal connection and reflection to what we've been talking about through the course. So in a moment, I'm going to read the prompts, but first, the facilitators for each breakout group, I'm just gonna list them off in the space that you're in. So facilitators, you hear your name, just raise your hand. And then I'll read through the prompts and then we can kind of move into that session. So we have good panel time. Cool. Okay, so here in the 7th and 8th grade classroom, if you have 7, 8 on your name tag, you'll be staying here. That will be with Rayna and Jennifer, so they're over here. So they're your facilitators. If you have 5, 6, the 5, 6 classroom on your name tag, you'll be directly next door. Adjacent, you will be with Craig and Rose, next door. High school classroom is directly across the hall from us. You will be with Erin. Erin, raise your hand, is in the front. Our graduate success room, where the food came from, will be with Yaz up here in the front as well. I will be out in this general hallway area, the education commons. And then Fareed will be around the kitchen island, just a little bit past the couches out there. So I'm gonna read through the prompts now that we went through that.
Some of them don't have classes, you said, education time.
Yeah, so that's just a space right outside of here. Yep, yeah, kind of that couch area out there, yep. Okay, so the prompts are, and feel free to answer, either of them, think about either. What memories do you have with adult mentors, positive or challenging, and what impact did those folks have on your development as a young person? Or think back to a time or experience in your youth that was you finding your spark. And by that, I mean passion or joy. So something that a speaker mentioned last week, Yolanda, was that a lot of times out of school, time programming provide a space for our students to find something they love and they're passionate about, whether it be a sport or something creative or even a social circle. So of course, in saying that, you know, something helped you find your passion as a young person that wasn't an after-school program or school specifically, all those things are fair game. So time with family, friends, mentors, self-discovery through your own development. So again, I'll just read through them really quick. What memories do you have with adult mentors, positive or challenging? What impact did those folks have on your development as a young person? Or think back to a time or experience in your youth that was you finding your spark. Quick, brief, 2-3 minute, share out anything stand out from your group discussions, conversations, common themes, anything, you know, impactful that struck a chord. Yeah. Okay.
Well, there was someone who said that the work that's being done here is awesome, and it's like, as far as mentoring is concerned, just feel like this is preparing her for life. So I thought that was a good note to make.
In our group, just a similar pattern of representation, leadership, and mentors holding us to be, teaching us how to be accountable for ourselves.
That's good.
You know, so that autonomy was a pattern.
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you all again. And I hope that kind of changed things up, was a nice reset and also let us, you know, connect with our own experiences, because learning and education happens in so many different forms, in so many different places, and that's often, you know, overlooked in our world. So it's important to acknowledge that. Bringing us back to this idea for our second portion of today's session, which is our Racquet Up panel session, community member session. So squash, back to this idea of squash being used as a hook for the framing of an after-school, out-of-school time experience. That's kind of our unique contribution to the educational justice landscape in Detroit. So with that said, we've got 4 very near and dear members of our Racquet Up community who have given us their time and their knowledge tonight. And we've encouraged them to be, you know, candid and honest, and, you know, share things true to their experiences and not feel like they need to hold themselves back, you know, for hurting anyone's feelings, you know, people in the room. So we just really want to uplift your voices and your experiences. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves in a moment. And let's do a time check. Okay, we're good on time. So before they introduce themselves, I just want us to give them a little love with a round of applause. So without further ado, in any order, however you want to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Rayna-Simone. I'm 8th grader. I attend Racquet Up. I go to Flix, the school right across the street. Flix is foreign language, emerging cultural studies. We learn French, Spanish, Chinese, and Japanese, and then all the extra other classes and other sports.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Walker. I am Rayna's mother. I have 5 daughters that attend Detroit Public Schools, a son that graduated from Detroit Public Schools, and I myself graduated from Detroit Public Schools. Did I say I'm employed by Detroit Public Schools?
Hi, my name is Yasmin. I am an alum of the program here. I currently work for the city of Detroit as the media person for the city. And that's just a little bit about myself.
Hi, my name is Aaron. I am an alum of Racquet Up as well. I was actually one of the first class of Racquet Up. I work in Los Angeles in finance, and I also run programs similar to Racquet Up in Los Angeles.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Did you turn this one too? I feel like this one got turned up as well. I can hold it further away, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, so to kick us off, we've got a couple of like intro warm-up questions. And I kept them broad and open-ended on purpose, of course, so answer them however you see fit. But we want to hear a little bit more about your stories. So this session is really focused on reflection and storytelling. So first question is, what has shaped you the most as a young person in our world, or is currently shaping you? Take it either way. And feel free to jump in, pass the mics around. Yeah. What has shaped or is shaping you the most as a young person in our world?
I can speak. I feel like the things that shaped me as a young kid growing up in the city especially was my support system. I had a really good support system, specifically my mom who always stressed education. It's kind of like my ticket to just having like a really nice, comfortable life essentially, not like the best of the best, but comfortable. And then of course like Racquet Up aided in that as well. It was like I didn't even know it existed. Like they came to my school and was just like, it didn't seem real, the stuff they were saying. But I tried it out anyway, tried it, and then not here. So I feel like it was just like the support for me.
I would echo that. I would definitely say Racquet Up, but I would also say, like I said, friends and family. I feel like when you're growing up in Detroit, like, especially when your parents or your siblings don't go to college or barely finish high school, like, you're almost like, for me, I kind of felt like a little bit of a golden child in a way. And not just me, like my younger brothers as well, because like our parents always looked at us like we were doing something that they didn't do. So what shaped me was like just having friends and family, and pretty much if you met like anyone, they're like, oh, that's good, you're in school, like, oh, you're going to college, you're doing something that like majority of people in the city like haven't done before. So just kind of that support system and getting recognition from some of your friends and your family, and then Racquet Up as well. It played a big role in my life as well.
I would say something that shaped me is actually growing up in the city of Detroit. So I grew up in Detroit. I didn't grow up extremely poor. I didn't grow up rich either. But just being like kind of in the middle, I'm able to see, like, have empathy for everyone. So I have an understanding for someone that may be homeless or someone that maybe is more fortunate. It just growing up in a fast-paced city, a city where everybody pretty much looked like me, helped me to helped me just to understand life a lot more. I actually, in college, one experience I had is when I used to do my hair in college, my suite mates used to watch me do my hair. And I actually had, my roommate told me that she had never seen a black person in real life. So she lived in a really, really small town west, and it was just a different experience for her. And you know, some people may have gotten offended by it, but I didn't get offended. You know, I would ask the questions that they would ask me, and I think I felt like pretty proud to be able to say I'm from Detroit. You know, I was the only, out of 64 people on the floor, it was just me and one other person. He was from Detroit as well, one other black person.
Where'd you go to school?
Western Michigan.
Oh, okay. I had it all.
Okay, thank you all for sharing that. So, yeah, so you know, we're talking about some of the challenges in the current education landscape. So just to hear from each of you, because we have such a wide range of folks, like Jennifer, you have a career, and then we have a student, we have grads, like just to hear what gaps have you experienced in middle school, high school. You can interpret that as like, did you feel prepared when you went to high school from middle school, or did you feel prepared when you arrived at college? What were some things you wish you would have learned, in your previous education to get to that point?
And that's my daughter.
I feel like one of the gaps that I have is me as a person. I don't like the big crowd in classes. Like it's like 20 of us in the class, and I feel like I need a smaller space. So like when it came to high schools and deciding a school, I went through all of them, and I was like, okay, this is a good school, but I need a smaller class, or I need people that actually understand me, or be there to help me when I feel like I'm one of the people that actually don't understand everything. And so, yeah, I have a few teachers at school who I could go to, or it's like, I need extra help, or I need this certain type of person to talk to. But I feel like going into high school, I might have that extra push that helps me get through it.
And what high schools are you considering?
My top choice is Mary Grove. My second is Cass.
And I would just like to say that this program actually helped to fill the gap for Rayna, because she was really outgoing when she was younger. And then when she got to middle school, like around 5th, 6th grade, it seemed like she started to get shy and like go inward. And this program helped her a lot with being more outspoken and being confident. And it's a lot of encouragement. Everybody is always encouraging, like, even if she have a match and she lose, they'll tell her something that she did good in the match. So I'm proud that this program actually filled the gap for me.
Thank you.
So I am a Cass alum. I feel like my transition from middle school to high school was a little different. It wasn't linear. In middle school, I went to 3 different middle schools. So you have 3 years of middle school. So yeah. I went to Mary Grove, well, my bad, I went to MPA, which was where actually I got recruited by Racquet Up from. Then I went to Schultz Academy, and then I ended up at Paul Robeson. I feel like Paul Robeson, out of the 3 I went to, was the one that really put me for Cass. And I was also like a school back then. I'm not sure now, but you had to test into that middle school. So we did a lot of test prep. So when I did the test for, you know, the big 3 in the city, like Renaissance, Cass, and King at the time, and now that they have Mary Grove. Also, my brother is an alum from Mary Grove too. So Cass was great, challenging. But I can definitely say that prepared me for college to the extent, like, everybody around me freshman year was like, oh my God, I'm struggling and flipping out. And I'm like, this is not hard. No. And it's because I already experienced this at Cass, because it was a college prep high school, essentially. So that's kind of my experience. I didn't really have a bad, like, transition. I'd say 8th grade. Now 6th and 7th was a different story. 7th grade, I don't feel like I learned anything. It was just like play all day. It was a point where I really asked my English teacher, like, can we read something?
Ooh.
And she was like, yeah, the books are over there.
Ooh.
My mom pulled me off that school. So, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So is that one of the contributing factors for the different middle schools, or?
Yeah, MPA.
That was MPA. Okay.
McDowell. I believe they went, well, when I was
McDowell.
there, it was IPA, and then they changed it back to MPA. The International Baccalaureate Academy, something like that.
Like an IB program.
Yeah, and then just like 6th grade, I'm learning college stuff. So it was like, okay, this is cool, this is nice, but I'm also 12. So it just didn't really make sense. I did good, like when I did my tests and stuff like that. But it was kind of like the environment of the school. My parents was like, oh, this is a little rowdy. So we're going to move you to Schultz, because it was also a partner school of Racquet Up at the time. But Schultz was also kind of a rowdy school to an extent. It's a great school. But at least the year I went there in my class, they like separated the girls and boys. It seemed pretty, you know, stand up, but it was just as crazy. But Paul Robeson was very structured, very like education. I feel like I actually had teachers and actually like got enrichment from it, which was different from my previous 2 years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just to add a little bit of context here. So McDowell Preparatory Academy, she referred to MPA, is a recruiting school for Racquet Up. And the story of that school is a lot of what we talked about last session, you know, about publics becoming charters, becoming private, going back to charter, and every one of these changes impacts the kids that are in that school, right? So there's different teachers, different administration, different rules, different curriculum, and it can send kids to other schools for various reasons, and that has a huge impact. So just wanted to add that. But.
And just to add one more thing, also the year I went there was also the year they said they was getting rid of middle school. So I kind of also feel the teachers just kind of was like, well, they're getting rid of the middle school anyway. So I just wanted to add that in here. Because I know they're still open. I'm not bashing them. I just want to add that.
I would say the same thing. So I went to McDowell when it was just McDowell. I went there from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. But I was there through all those changes when it went from McDowell to IPA back to McDowell. So kind of I said, it was just fun. I don't remember actually doing any work, to be honest, or actually learning anything. And part of that was due to all the changes. It's going from here to here to here. But I didn't notice those gaps until I got to high school. Freshman year, I was pretty decent. And then sophomore, junior, and senior year, I had that similar experience. My high school was changing administration. So then again, you learn one thing and then the next day you're not doing it anymore. But Racquet Up filled that gap because at the time, we were the first class, so they really wanted us to apply to colleges, and they were pushing us to do all these extra activities and just do good in your classes. So those gaps, they were there, but they got filled. And Fareed was saying, I think a lot of that comes from not even just Detroit, but schools with underfunding, school changing administration. It's it's tough.
Yeah. What school did I go to?
UHS.
UHS, right. And you were saying because you were the first class of Racquet Up, right? The program wasn't built out at that time the way it is now. So there wasn't enrichment. It was you were saying, more homework support, more homework help, and squash. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But yeah, and then Aaron also just asked you how did you feel prepared, college? What was that transition from high school to college?
That's probably my biggest challenge. So. Again, UHS is supposed to be a university-bound school. It's supposed to prepare you for college, but just to give you a background, I went to a college in upstate New York called St. Lawrence. It's a private liberal arts school. Freshman year was my toughest year of any school because I got there and a lot of people that came there was coming from prep schools, boarding schools. They learned so much stuff that I didn't even know anything about. So I had to get tutoring. And I felt behind. I had to retake a couple classes just because I didn't know simple subjects that algebra or calculus or none of that. I didn't really learn that in high school, so I had to kind of play catch up, but also still maintain my grades and still just do everything at the same time. But that was probably when I really noticed those gaps because I feel when you're in school, you don't really notice that type of stuff, especially when you're young. All you know is you're doing your work, your classmates are doing the same work. But when you go outside of that environment, you realize how much far behind you are. When you go to a school where your kids are coming from all these different states and learning all this different stuff, you start to realize oh shoot, this whole time I was in my little bubble. Now that I'm outside my bubble, I'm missing so much of this stuff.
I wanted to share something about a gap too. So I'm glad that I was asked to be on this panel because I used to say I went to Detroit Public Schools from K to 8, but I didn't. From preschool to Head Start to second grade, I actually went to school in Romulus, and I experienced a lot of racism there. As a little child, I remember some of the racism, and when I was making a decision with my children, let me go back a little bit. So I went to Detroit Public School, and I didn't go to a Renaissance or a CAS. I went to a regular neighborhood school, which I was in honors classes. I was in National Honor Society and stuff like that. But I actually didn't get a chance to take the AP exam because they actually told us, teachers said that we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford it, or we weren't prepared like the other students in Michigan. And so when I went to college, I tested in all remedial classes, and I struggled in remedial. I didn't even know what remedial meant. I had to go look it up. But I also did not want my children to experience racism. As a kid, people told me, their mother told them don't play with me and stuff like that. So I didn't want them to experience that. So I know that they would have a lack in education And I have them in tutoring and things like that, but I didn't want them to, I felt like I would rather them maybe have a C average in academically than have to deal with racism. And I know later on in life, but I feel like the older they are, they'll understand and they'll be able to deal with it a little bit better. So with picking Detroit Public Schools, I thought about I didn't want them to experience that.
Thank you all for that. We've addressed a lot, spent a lot of time talking about the gaps, the needs left unmet from our education system throughout, this course thus far. And we've named that Racquet Up and other out-of-school programs like us exist in efforts to fill some of those gaps, but also to offer space for youth to explore other parts of themselves and their identities. So broadly, what has Racquet Up brought to the table for you? And it can be anything, right?
So yeah, like my mom said, I came to Racquet Up and I wasn't the type when I basically got into middle school or 5th grade. I didn't like talking. I had friends, but like I didn't really think of them as friends. They were just like school, okay, we talk, hey. I had maybe one friend that I hung out outside school. I got to Racquet Up and I made one best friend, and we're still best friends. In April, we've been friends for like 4 years because of Racquet Up, so that's probably one of my longest friendships. And
Love friendships.
And Racquet Up has opened a lot of doors for me. Like I get to go on college tours every year. I get to learn about colleges. I go home to my parents and my sister. I do community service work, and last year, or going into 7th grade, I got the opportunity to go to a YMCA camp. I forgot the name. Haywood. It's a lot of money, and as a black kid, one of the only black kids that went to the camp, I don't think I had to pay for anything. But so I went, and it was a lot of kids who didn't have like the stuff I had, and like Racquet Up, they was like, oh, do you need this? Oh, do you need that? And they helped with stuff that like I needed, or I had some of it at home. And I got there, and there was a lot of kids that like had to borrow stuff from there. And I say the only thing that I like actually bought was a hoodie, and I bought it both years that I went, because I went last year going to 8th grade. And my experience last year was, the start was pretty bad. I complained a lot, and I threw a really big tantrum about because I didn't like my counselors the first few weeks, because I thought one of them was really weird, and then the other one was like outspoken to a point where it's like, I don't want to hear you talk. I just got to a point, and it was like, okay, you're cool, and yeah, like the end, I was like, okay, I gotta go home now. And then this year, this is the month where like I make the decision if I want to go back, and I'm not going back this year because I'm going to Cranbrook, or I'm trying to get into a Cranbrook program. Okay. It's called Cranbrook Horizons. Cranbrook Upward Horizons Bound. And I think the program will help me a lot with going to high school, because you get to stay on the campus, and they give you like the curriculums that you're gonna for you. They give you the classes that you're going to take in high school, and you get to do other stuff. I come back home on the weekends, and they still like follow me in high school. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, question is, what has Racquet Up brought to the table for you all in any aspect, avenue?
For me as a parent of two Racquet Up students, we had a check-in. I remember when Rayna was in 5th or 6th grade, and I actually was going through a divorce, and it wasn't just me and my husband going through a divorce. It was our children going through a divorce too, and that's around the time when Rayna was like kind of shutting down with talk and things like that. So I actually shared with Miss Hollyn that I kind of needed help with going through the divorce, because my child was just really quiet, and I'm struggling myself, so I don't really know what to do. So they gave a lot of support with that, and she was like a flower, like closing in, then she just blossomed back open. So I don't know what exactly they did, but I know they said they had a graduate student that was a counselor that was going into the counseling field. So I believe she checked in with her a few times and just here experiencing the love. And I would like to say, I hope Racquet Up would open an East Side program because it could be very impactful there. And really quick, before this Racquet Up opened here, I knew it was at Northwest Activity Center, but one day during the pandemic, I sat in the car for 2 hours waiting on someone to come tell me what the program was. Well, I read about it, but I didn't know how to sign up for it. So I actually met Derek. And who was Derek in the program?
The founder.
Okay, the founder. So I actually met, he walked up to my car and asked like, well, can I help you? And I told him about my daughter, about this daughter, and he was able to, tell me how to sign up and everything. So that's how dedicated I was to get her this program.
And we're so glad you were.
Yeah.
I say Racquet Up gave me a big list of opportunities. So I joined the program in a different way. Like I was the first class, so Mr. Derek, he came, presented in our gym, and then next thing you know, he was setting up parent meetings. So we was all skeptical. I'm not just my family, this man you never met, this program you never heard of, it's not even operating yet. And somebody's like, I want to come to your house, sit in your living room, and talk to you and tell you. So my mom was like, what? But it got worse though, because as the program went on, now this new man that you just met want to take you out the state. He want to take you on a college trip or a tournament. So it's it was all brand new to us. But as we started to get, me, my parents, and all of my teammates, as we started to get more comfortable with what we're doing, it just the doors open from there. Me, Karan, some of my teammates, we started to compete. We started to get better at squash, and we realized we don't just go to Chicago. We on a flight now in 5th, 6th grade, and we flying out of state to go play a sport that not too many of our friends do, and we not paying a single dollar for it. So it's the doors started there with squash, but then as we got older and we wasn't just those kids just going to play, now we going on college tours. Now I'm on this citizenship tour meeting senators and stuff like that. It just kept going from there. So I would say Racquet Up just gave me a long list of opportunities. And part of the reason I was telling Free while I'm living in LA is because my team, we won the national championship for Racquet Up our high school year. To celebrate, Racquet Up took us to Los Angeles, for our senior trip. And I fell in love with that place. And I was okay.
That's amazing.
When I graduate college, this is where I'm living. So it's
Look at that.
those opportunities never end. Even to this day, I'm sitting right here speaking to y'all.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity itself. So they just gave me a long list of opportunities.
Yeah, I certainly have to agree. I feel like it's a plethora of opportunities. I too was able to be on a citizenship tour, so I did meet some senators. Beyond that, I also been to NBC studios because at one point I wanted to be a whole news anchor and a TV personality, and I actually had the luxury of talking to TV personalities like Al Roker and Holga and stuff like that. Al Roker, he keeps it real. He told me, I was like, yeah, how you get into this? I want to do this. And he was like, by luck. I'm like, oh, luck, huh? I want to pay, to go to school for this. And what's the odds? He was like, honestly, it's really who you know. So I could say even being young like that, just if I didn't have Racquet Up, I wouldn't even have had that opportunity, so to speak, to even talk to him. So definitely a plethora of opportunities. But I feel like for me, it was a little deeper. I was kind of going through some things, father, stuff like that. And Racquet Up was just really there, a support system as well during that time. But it was for me, I remember this one specific tournament, which is also the tournament that got me recruited into college. I was about to lose. And I came back and won. And then I had to play 2 more matches and won again. And then, I met my squash coach in college at that time, and that's what got me to go to Dennis University. It's about 30 minutes from Ohio State. So that's where I went for 4 years, which is also in the middle of nowhere, PWI. So, of course, I experienced things like, microaggressions, a lot of that, there being team captain, had to educate instead of being offended by it. So I kind of related to, similar things you said. But I feel like for me, just with the deeper level, just professionalism and just growing as a person. I was very immature at one point. I was very childish. Like, I just joked all the time. I didn't take anything serious. And then one day something just clicked and it was like, if this is what you really want to do, like you say you do, you kind of got to take stuff more serious. So I think something just kind of like switched in me. And I think I was also at the time going through all those things. So just, opportunities and professional growth, like, and just growth as a person. I think that's why I said it was deeper for me. Now it's coming back. Sorry, y'all. Just growth as an individual and a person. So yeah.
Okay, so this next one kind of touched on it a bit. I'm going to direct it toward our grads, but of course, Jennifer, Rayna, chime in. How have you found your passion in life to where you are right now, both professionally, personally, as young adults?
I'll kind of touch back on what I was saying earlier. I found my passion for like finance just as a young kid. Like, my mom didn't really know much about anything, so like growing up, I was the one to help her like figure out that stuff. I was always big on math. Like, when I turned 18, like, I got this weird memory where like all I wanted to do was get a credit card. I'm like, wow, I'm 18 trying to get a credit card. So it's like just developing in that way. So that's how I found my passion for money, and that's how I ended up like in my career now, doing my daily job of finance. But also like squash became one of my passions. Just seeing how good I got at it, just seeing how like competitive we were, like it was just something I fell in love with, and that's why even today I continue to teach kids how to play squash, because it was something that I grew up on, and I think it changed my life, and it became one of my passions, and I just continue to show love and show it to new people as well.
Are you still playing squash? Not to put you on the spot.
So I'm still playing squash. So the story is basically, so I went to college. I had like a year and a half of COVID. So I graduated a year and a half ago. And I kind of had that athlete's fear of like the sport I've been playing my whole life. Like, okay, I'm about to graduate. What's next? So when I moved to LA, I started playing squash just to meet people like that play squash as well, so I could like have someone to train with, play with. And then Miss Emma, so my mom is Jamaican, and Miss Emma, one of our coaches, she's from Scotland, or she's from somewhere in England, but her mom is Manchester, but her mom is Scottish. So she basically used her mom to play for the Scotland team, and she was like, "Why don't you go play for the Jamaican national team?" And I was like, "I guess." So she helped me. She connected me with the coach. I went down there, got a passport, and this was like right around the time that squash just made it into the Olympics. So now it's like, okay, you could go somewhere with this. So last year, I went down for the first like Olympic trial. I finished in 4th, which is like really good.
Whoa, that's awesome. Oh, man.
So I did that, and then I made the national team. So then in the summer, we went to Guyana for like a whole week, and we played like all these different countries in the Caribbean, Colombia, Brazil, like all those places. We played against them. And then actually 2 days ago, I just came from Jamaica again.
Whoa. Oh, man.
But like, long story short is like I stuck with squash, and then it somehow opened a new door for me. So now like every March, every November, and every summer, like I'm in some country playing squash. 1, competing for my spot on the national team, and then 2, competing for my spot in things like Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games. And if I'm good enough, I could get an Olympic spot, but that's like super tough. But hopefully.
That's sweet. Amazing.
What was the question again?
How have you found your passion in life?
Okay, so I've always had a very big personality, believe it or not. So when it came to like media, writing, just even when social media hit the scene, when I was finally allowed to have it, I just became like very intertwined with it. Like I was obsessed with just learning everything about it. I was like looking up different types of medias because there's a difference between media and social media. They're under the same umbrella, but they're completely two different things. So, then eventually I was like, no, I actually want to be a dentist now. And then I eventually jumped back to my passion, which is media, which is what I do now. So I am the digital and social media specialist for the city of Detroit. So I kind of oversee 13 divisions within the general services department. So that's a lot. Managing all those different things. Highlighting all these different divisions, making sure that everyone feels seen. And then, I deal with the social media side. My manager is a communications manager, so she deals with like the actual media with the news and press releases and stuff like that. Sometimes I assist if she needs my assistance, but I just like to leave that to her. But I feel like my passion for that, after graduating, something that's not talked about enough. I went through a transition, I can say. So I obtained my bachelor's in communications with a minor in marketing. I kind of had a little minor made up because I went to a liberal arts college. So it wasn't like a college that had a straight up marketing minor, but I did a lot of classes surrounding that to where I could say I'm a marketing minor. I ended up as a rec leader. My first official job after college, it took me months to get a job, which I personally was shocked about because I never got denied. So I'm getting accepted and I got all these opportunities to just getting straight denied. And I'm like, okay, this is entry level. I thought this entry level I'm not getting in. I'm like, how am I gonna get the experience if I keep getting denied? But the city took a chance on me. My first official job after college was a recreation leader where I did programming in recreation centers. So where I led events, and I feel like that really got me interested in programming. I'm like, okay, I can really throw some successful events. I was having the most successful events among rec leaders in the department within my first few months of starting. So I was already kind of making waves around the department without even knowing. I'm thinking I'm just doing all this, just to see what's to come. And what's so odd about it is I threw a very successful St. Patrick's senior soiree for the seniors. I love the seniors. They was everything to me. And I remember somebody from district where I work now came and was like, hey, you want this opportunity? And I'm like, let me think about it. And I want to just rush and say yeah, because this would be my first time in my career. But to wrap it up, because I could go on and on, it kind of found me, in my discussion in the little group it was in earlier, we kind of talked about how you don't always end up where you went to school for. And that's essentially where I started. It was nothing I was interested in, but I did grow love for it, and now I'm doing what I love. And the opportunities, I even have one of my coworkers and my close friend here, Micah. She does the event side of things for the city. So I love it. I'm passionate about it. Spirit events, Heart Plaza events, I be there, cover that. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say, not to be corny, but we're all very proud of you three. All of our kids are and just, we had to skip some questions, but there's these skills that you're talking about, the self-advocacy skills, or these skills, these soft skills, that are the intangibles, right? That you can't teach in a classroom, but you absorb through the community, through the mentors, through the vibe that's created. So that's so much, of what you guys are speaking to. So just to close things out, we still want to have some time for Q&A. We're running over a little bit. But, I don't want this to sound like an advertisement for Racquet Up, and I just feel like it kind of is. So part of the question here is we're talking about gaps, but what gaps of the gaps still remain? And what feedback do you have for Racquet Up? How could we serve kids better in the future? And Rayna, maybe specifically for you, since you're a current student, we internally talk a lot about, we talk a lot about how we don't want Racquet Up to feel like school. We don't want it to be school after school, right? But we're walking this fine line between addressing stuff in schools that is lacking, but trying to support kids here and make it fun and inviting. So if you have ideas, that you feel hey, Racquet Up could do this would be so cool. So anything like that, and if you don't have anything on the spot, that's okay too, but yeah.
I'd say the opportunities to go to camp. That was one really big thing that I feel I needed. I was really unsure because I knew the type of space I was going to. Then I got there and I was okay, I made some friends, and I made one friend that I talked to every summer. Like, we still text in the summer. Sometimes she texts me, like, holidays. She be like, hey, how are you? What you doing? Stuff like that. And I feel like those opportunities may be the most that other kids need, especially, like, to get away from home and also to, like, feel like they could be their own person without, like, the adults and the community that you know, like, being at your back. Because I did need to get away from home, and I do every time, like, I get away, I'm like, oh. So yeah, and I feel like the tournaments, that's one really big thing that I feel like a lot of kids at Racquet Up need, especially like the new ones. And I feel like, not to bash Racquet Up, but I feel like they're not doing like me, because I was the first generation of this facility, so I got a lot of practice, and like they were focused on me, like being able to know how to do this. And my second year Racquet Up, I was going to a out-of-state tournament, so I feel like the kids now, they're not as good as I was at their age and their grade. And like, I tell them, I'm like, can I help? Can I do this? Can y'all do this? Because my sister, she wants to be as good as me. And like, people call me, sometimes they call me the mini Victoria, which is one of the best girls at here. And so like, I take that title really seriously, because I'm like, I want my sister to be like as good as me, or yes, I want her to be like as good as the other people that she see playing. I don't want her to feel bad about like, she's like, Rayna, can you help me? Rayna, can we go home and practice? Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? Like, she's at home, she's asking me stuff, and like being able to have that connection with my sister is really important too, because that's someone I can relate to, because she goes Racquet Up too. So I feel like those opportunities to go to colleges, stuff like that. Like me as a person, like when I was like in 5th grade, I was like, I don't know if I want to go to college. Because like I'm watching on TV, and then I'm also seeing the people in like my family or other people, and I'm like, college seems hard. And then like as I'm getting older, I'm thinking about colleges and like how I feel like my experience will be. So I feel like those college tours are a really big thing, especially stepping into high school and being here where they help me getting into high school. Is a lot of kids at my school who didn't finish on time, and I had the opportunity to like have Racquet Up and have Miss Jada and other staff like on me about getting my essay done. And surprisingly, I had my essay done in 2 weeks, and I turned it in prior to I got into a school. I got into King, that's the school that my brother went to, and he did not want me to go. Like my dad and my brother did not want me to go, and my dad is like, I want you to go to Marygrove. And I was like, I want you to go to CMA. Then when I was talking about other schools, and I think I actually found my choice, because I'm a person who switched up a lot. Like, I was like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And Racquet Up like helped me, because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I got to Racquet Up, and I was like, okay, squash. That's my sport. Squash and track is like main things I'm focused on. When I'm not doing nothing in school, I have free time, I'm watching squash or I'm watching track. And like, I would have never thought I was the type of person that would be watching that, especially in school, when I could be like watching YouTube or watching a movie or doing other work. And I was just like, I'm actually sitting here doing this. So yeah, I feel like where I'm going is where I want to be.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and just to give a program manager's perspective on this, so like for context, we have 160 kids in our program. Last summer we sent 53 to different summer camps, right? So that's roughly 1/3 of our kids get, not everyone gets these opportunities or exposures. We try to open them up. Every year we try to up the ante a little bit, get more funding, send more kids, but like there's a massive amount of work and coordination from, Ms. Hollyn, Ms. Jada, like our frontline staff to push this, into that space. Tournaments for sure too, like I hear you, like that's, and just like, it's just a question of quality and scale. It's like, we're scaling, can we keep the quality the same that like Aaron and Yaz got, and that Rayna got when she was in, that's constantly on our minds, and just balancing, that part of it. So it's really helpful to hear that. And yeah, maybe let's do one more and then we'll.
So I work for Detroit Public Schools, and there's 106 schools. That's a Detroit Public School. Years ago, it was 350. They closed because of funding, enrollment. People weren't graduating. My high schools actually closed down because the graduation rate was so low. And there is like a a lot of different schools, Detroit Public Schools. So they named some of them. It's 5 high schools in Detroit that is an application school. It's some that is testing schools. And my children go to a school you have to take a test to get into the foreign language school. They learn foreign language from kindergarten to 8th grade. And then my daughter is back there. She's graduating from Renaissance. You have to test for that school too.
Hey, Renee.
She's a senior, and they have had a different opportunity than some other children. So, you know, I have 12 schools I work for, the Founding Community Engagement program, so department, and it's like a school in walking distance of Flicks. The students don't even look the same. The parents are not the same. So it's the problems in Detroit Public School are so deep that it's not just the education that we're teaching them. It's not just that the building is the roof might be leaking or something like that. It's so much deeper. Like parents don't know advocacy. Like some parents are not educated past what they're trying to teach their children. Some of them are insecure. Some people may sleep in their car. You know, we have unaccompanied youth, so we have students that don't even live with anyone. I mean, they live from couch to couch. It's so deep of a problem. Like people think on the outside looking in, oh, Detroit Public Schools but it's so deep. I don't know if the problem will ever be fixed. And I just wish that people would give back, like how Derek did. And he goes out and finds his own funding. I wish that people would give back, and even like in our careers and our adult lives, like still reach back for someone else. Like I am a children's church teacher, and it's very rewarding, and it's very hard sometimes, but it's very impactful. Sometimes students run up to me like, oh, you used to be my teacher, and they're talking about a children's church teacher. Like I don't have a background in teaching, but just impacting someone's life. Like I don't remember my children's church teacher. They probably were mean, but I want someone to remember that somebody care about them. So in everything you do, please reach back and do something.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We have time for a handful of questions, comments from you all. Yeah, and please, our mics are kind of tethered up here, so speak up, and we can repeat the question if needed as well. We'll just do hands, raise of hands.
So like, let's say I wanna
Can you stand up so we can hear? Thank you.
so let's say I wanna like play squash. Would you say like a hard sports get it, so or like an easy sports get it? So like you mentioned like players not being as good.
I mean, going into it, I thought it was pretty hard. I was like, am I gonna be able to get to this level? And surprisingly, I did. Within the first year I got here, I got good enough to like I was winning tournaments. Last year I came second place in tournaments at Racquet Up. I came in nationals tournament. Our team came in second place. So I feel like, yeah, it might seem hard, but if you get the right coaching, you have the right for me, it's my friends. They keep me motivated to keep going, and coaches. So yeah, determination, community support, support system, stuff like that. If I have a bad tournament, I'd probably go to the bathroom and I'd be mad, ready to cry. But also I will also come back and I know I did good. I need to work on this. I come back and I'm I tell one of my coaches I need to work on my backhand. My backhand needs to be sharper, and it is way better than it used to be. So coming into it is gonna be hard, but if you're wanting to learn, then and you have the right dedication for it, you should be good enough to play.
Yeah, we're talking about Detroit Public Schools, but Detroit Public Schools are representative of our society. We have not fixed societal problems. There's no way you're gonna, until we do that, it's not gonna happen. So thank you for encouraging people to reach out and keep reaching out. But we have a lot of challenges in our society, and it's gonna take a lot. So it's not, I'm not gonna say it's not only school, because you're asking a lot of teachers, and it's a lot happening. People living in their cars, all kinds of things happen. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Kim.
So I know one of the things we talked about with out-of-school learning are resources that can be provided that the public schools can't for lots of reasons. But I'm curious, so many great opportunities Racquet Up provides. How is Racquet Up supported? Could you support Infinite students if they showed up and wanted to be a part of Racquet Up?
I'll comment on the infinite students. Right. Yeah, I think we've gotten to kind of a comfortable capacity of, our team sizes, of where we're at now. I have 55 or so students rostered of 5th and 6th grade. And the idea is, we have the most students when they start in the program. So I have the biggest team as the 5th and 6th grade academic lead. And then of course kids, as they go through the program, they get interested in other things. They might, lose interest in squash, and move to other things. So yeah, that's a little bit about.
Yeah, I'll speak on the funding. So we're funded like 30% through grants, 70% through donors, and like private donors, small donors, some big donors, some long-term supporters of Racquet Up, but it's hard, and we have a fundraiser every year to double down, and our goal is to raise $700,000. Our operating budget is, it's up to 800, increase a little bit. I think our operating budget's like $1.5 million per year. We're also like currently at a deficit in our budget, small deficit. So yeah, it's constantly a struggle of but we're fine financially. We have good securities, and systems set up so that even if we do dip down, we have money to keep us afloat. But it would be great to open a second location and to expand. I don't think there's plans to do that, but
There are other programs in the network that have opened multiple locations in different cities as they grow and expand.
Yeah, like Chicago has 2, Massachusetts has 3, or one of them has 3, one of them has 2. California has 2, so certainly, and then, there's also a lot of other great programs in the city that we've talked about that have different hooks, that are very similar to Racquet Up and have similar goals. And to me, it's something I've seen as unique in Detroit, like in other places I've lived, I haven't seen programs like Racquet Up, besides the alliance that we're a part of, but
Now, question for the panelists. How have being a part of Racquet Up helped you understand what community is?
Great question.
I used to think community was only like your neighborhood and family, and then I got Racquet Up, and it's like I have people here who actually care about me. I can talk to those people, and they're here for support. And I know I always have people to talk to and turn to other than family. So yeah, this really expanded my knowledge of community.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it opened my mind to just more than just like my local neighborhood. Like especially like waking up early morning doing my community service and giving back. I think that's really when like I found my love for giving back as much as I did because of Racquet Up. So much to the point that like literally when I got to college, I'm like I have to be a member of something bigger than myself. So I ended up joining Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated because of that. And even outside of like my work and what I do technically as a public servant, I give back with my organization as well. So
Same, just like understanding like, first of all, Racquet Up became a family. And then that family, when I stepped outside of Detroit, like I really understood what community was then because I was in the middle of nowhere, but like nobody looked like me, nobody talked like me. And I started joining things just like like Black Student Union. And then they got to a point where I was in college and I was the student delegate of the board of trustees. So like now I'm sitting on the board full of college members and I'm supposed to represent like the BSU club to the entire campus. So like that's when I really figured out like what it meant to like represent your community and stuff.
And it also Racquet Up supports the community as far as parents. We have some parent outings. We had a home buying workshop. I'm a homeowner, and I actually learned something that I wouldn't have, I never heard until I got here about borrowing from your equity in your home. I never I had never heard that. No one ever presented it to me, so I was happy to come to it. I haven't used it, but I'm glad to know that.
When is the bus coming?
Working on
Oh, yeah. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got one more. How important is it to advertise after-school programs within communities? So I work in education. I do some work, especially over at Renaissance with the Green Team and Emily Phillips. Do a lot of after-school work on Mondays. I stress to my team the importance of after-school program, but I also stress to them, like, you have to care. There has to be some type of passion. Just doing a program for an agenda, doing a grant, it's like, all right, cool, but at the same time, you're not putting the kids at first. You're not putting education at first. So I guess this might not even be a question to the panel, but maybe a question to you guys, like, what is the importance of doing after-school work in communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, that's kind of the central question of our two sessions, was, some of the things we didn't get to discuss was the difference of after-school programming in well-resourced schools versus under-resourced schools, right? Well-resourced schools, it's not something that is, the vitals of what students need to learn in school. It's more like arts and enrichment and like things that are addendums and look good on a college resume, right? And not to say like this kind of stuff doesn't, but it's a lot of trying to meet the basics and to get support, for students. Like this year, we created a robust tutoring program. We hired someone whose job is to manage that, which we've never had. No one in our alliance has that either. And that's really proven, it like ballooned into this huge number, and we have to like kind of scale it back because we saw the needs were so great. So I think like the out of school question, it's like, one of the other anchor partners were talking about like, can we merge the two? Like, why does there need to be a distinction between what's out of school and what's in school? And the question there is, the answer to that really is a lot of these programs have been cut from schools, right? So like arts programs are the first programs to get cut when budgets shrink.
Yeah.
And when kids are diverted from a public school to a charter, their dollar per student goes with them, right? So the schools have the same overhead costs to run a building, but the population is shrinking. So what does that mean? It means all of the, I don't know a better word for it, but like the hooks and like the passions, like all of the things that make school fun, right? And for like, someone said this in the last session, it was like some kids go to school just for the after school programs, right? And if like this is the direction we're heading, like under the Trump administration and like book banning and like we talked about that in the last session of like, just taking out all of the spice and flavor out of schools, it's like, what are we gonna be left with? Like, what is the future of this? So to answer your question, I think it's like really important, to get that word out there, to do this work. And it would be like foolish to think like we're the answer to these problems, because as much as like some of the stuff like Rayna mentioned and like the exposures, like these are all great and intangibles, and like Aaron talked about that of like how some of the gaps like inspired him to overcome the gaps, right? But not everyone is the same type of learner, and everyone has like a different learning style. And so we try our best to like facilitate programming that meets students, depending on like what type of learner they are. But yeah, the work that we need to do is like in the schools and like really advocate for community schooling and to like have a voice, in the curriculum that's taught. But also I think another part of this is the relationship between out of school programs and schools, because they're not really symbiotic. Like I would even say a tad antagonistic. Like it's not something, and that's changed like over time. And that might be because schools are more burdened, over time. They just don't have the space to consider us, and to like work with us.
So like you have to go to school and something else. I know coworkers and other people throughout life that didn't have mentorship, didn't play a sport, and it's just something different. They just know just education. They're lined up education, but not versatile in other things. We actually have a program with Detroit Public Schools. It's for high school students called Student Leadership Program. So we have like trap yoga, mindfulness, meditation. And after school, it might be a class at your school, but it's at all the high schools. It may be one time at Cody, one time at Renaissance, one time at Cass, and different things. And we actually give them $25 Visa gift card to come to the after school program. So, like we have debate and we have chess. I actually know students that started going to debate because of this after school program that they had just one day because they heard they was gonna get $25. So I just feel like everybody needs to do something after school or something extra in life.
Yeah.
And I say this quite often when I'm around, but we put a lot of emphasis on schooling. Schooling is only one type of education. Everything we do is education. And so we put a lot of burdens on the school, but if we can broaden our minds around that we're being educated about so many things. Everything is education, and we can get it from any place. And so let's encourage us to get and figure out what we want to do, because there's so many ways. And the last thing I want to say that I think is really important. I heard the word support like 1,000 times. And I say, if you want to have sustainability in this world and really be balanced, have to have support. Anybody that's trying to do it alone, you're doing it wrong. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very valuable perspective. Yeah, 'cause to add to that, like we talked about family support, parent support. Like both Jazz and Aaron mentioned that, and like Jennifer. So that's a huge part of this. And yeah, you're right. Education is everything that we do. Yeah, in our lives. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, sorry we went over a little bit, but thank you so much for joining us in the space. We really appreciate everything.